So a settlement agreement is a contract between an employer and an employee when an employee is leaving their employment's being terminated. Hello, my name's Stephen Mather, solicitor, and I help small business owners with a wide range of legal problems from startup to exit and everything in between. And so I act for employees and employers on settlement agreements, and I do a lot for employees actually, hundreds a year, and they can be for all different circumstances. So it might be something that's come out of the blue, often is, and the employee is not really sure why they're all of a sudden having their employment terminated. It can be something that's a bit more obvious, that the business has downturned and they're looking at making redundancies. It can be for a variety of different reasons. And what a settlement agreement is really saying is your employment's going to be terminated, the company will usually pay you some money, and in return you agree not to bring any claims against the company. So my task as a lawyer, and that's actually enshrined in legislation, says that I've got to give you advice on the terms and effect of the agreement. You've got to understand what it is that you're signing. And the effect of it actually is quite simple and straightforward generally, which is once you sign this, you can't bring any claims against the company. So if you're owed some money, the settlement agreement, if it doesn't pay you that money, you won't be able to sue them for it. Or if you've been unfairly dismissed or you've been subjected to any kind of discrimination, then my task is to make sure the money that's being offered is a suitable amount as an alternative to going to an employment tribunal. So we'll talk about the context. Why do we have a settlement agreement? What is the story behind it? And I'll understand, we'll take time and go through all of those issues, whatever that might be. And then usually in the second part of the meeting, we'll then go through the actual terms of the document, the words on the page, so that I'm confident that you understand what you're being asked to sign. And we'll take you through that, give you an opportunity to ask any questions. And in doing both of those stages, that'll allow me to give you the advice on whether or not the offer that's on the table is the right offer. We'll also consider the alternatives, going to an employment tribunal. But generally speaking, that incurs stress and time and costs. And three of those added up, we need to factor in to work out whether or not the amount that's on offer is a good amount. For my business clients, if they're looking at exiting an employee, I'll help them through that process. I will draft the documents, sometimes recommend external solicitors for the employee to take independent legal advice, which is a requirement, and deal with that whole process so that they know that that's all covered from start to finish and signing it all. And then for employees, they will usually come, they've been spoken to, they've had a meeting with HR, or they've been handed an agreement, and the law says that needs to be reviewed by an independent solicitor. So they will come to me and say, Stephen, can you give me that independent legal advice? And then we'll go from there. In settlement agreement circumstances, it can be out of the blue and the employee doesn't really understand what's going on, or occasionally it's a sham and the employer has suggested that there might be some performance issues, but in reality it's just a change of personnel and somebody wants to exit that personnel. So from an employer's point of view, I'm a big fan of suggesting settlement agreements, because although the initial look might go, well, why am I paying this person? They've done X, Y, and Z and I want to sack them. Actually, what we're doing is paying them a little bit, but buying a lot of certainty. And then we don't have to worry about what the future holds, because we know we're buying them and they can't bring a claim against us. For employees, what the law says is that settlement agreements are only binding once you've spoken to a solicitor and a solicitor has signed a piece of paper to say, hey, look, I've given you advice. Why you'd pick me? Well, you'd pick me because actually you want to have a chat with somebody. You want that person to understand what you've gone through, and potentially you want that person to understand, because I act for businesses, what are the best levers, the best ways to try and get more money out of that company? Because negotiation is something that's really important. I'm not likely to turn around and say, okay, the offer that you've got right now is £5,000, unless we can really demonstrate some really strong legal case. There's not much chance of us going back and saying we want 12 months salary. Just probably not going to happen. But actually, if we can put together an argument to say, well, look, you've done this wrong, this isn't right, this is what would happen if we went to an employment tribunal, and put some pressure on them to get a better deal, my experience in dealing with the business side of things makes it, I know and realise what I can push from a business, what's reasonable to push and what we can get away with in order to maximise the value of your settlement. If you've just been handed a settlement agreement, I completely understand you're probably in shock. It can come as a surprise to lots of people. You don't understand it. You don't understand why you need to speak to a solicitor. Get in touch, right? Drop me an email, give me a call. We'll have a chat about the circumstances, and hopefully I can start to put you at ease, explain what's going on, explain the process from this point to signing the agreement if that's what you decide to do. We'll have a look at all the options that are available, and we'll just work out what's best for you.